You'll see the basketball, female athlete, football, and Abe Lincoln pages. They're still making adjustments to all that. We know there's still issues with some of you using PayPal to sign up for these luncheons, but again, we're working on that, so stay tuned. And more of the pages are still being developed, so please be patient with Kelly. She's probably at the end of her rope. So give her smiles through the phone when you talk to her. Next week, we are on Zoom, and it's with the Northwest Indy Kiwanian John Schertzer, who is Executive Director of the Congressional Medal of Honor Society here in Indianapolis, and it's one of 3 congressionally approved memorial sites in the nation. On the 22nd of March, Indianapolis will commemorate the 25th anniversary of this landmark, and if you have not seen it, it's on the canal. It is worth your time and energy to go down and see it. It is absolutely gorgeous. Our next downtown Iozos is March 18th, which is a Monday, so let Roger know if you're going to attend, so we can have enough food for everyone, which you know they always overfeed you. On the 21st, we're going to hear from Howard Kellman in his 50th year of announcing baseball. That's going to be a Zoom meeting. Roger, Tom Eubank, and I will be attending the Kiwanis, Indiana District Mid-Year Conference in Plainfield on the 23rd of March. We will be presenting a check for $5,000 to Rally for Reach Out Indiana initiative. Last October, we learned about their efforts to provide accessible mental health services for kids and teens. So we're excited about being able to present that.
Mary, Laura's coming too. Well,
Laura's coming too, yeah. Oh,
there's room
good.
for Laura.
Woohoo! Let's party. Woohoo! Social supper. We had a great one downtown last month. This month, we rotate each side of town. So we're going to be in Broad Ripple on the 26th of March. Mark your calendar if you make sure, see if you can come or not. We're going to be at Fernando's, which is Mexican and Brazilian. Email or send me a text if you think you might want to come. 5:30 on Tuesday, March 26th. So basketball state finals lunch is at Primo's on the 29th of March. Register if you're able to go, and please let Kelly know if you'd serve as a greeter. She always needs help, and remember, we're the Kiwanians, we're supposed to be doing most of the work. She just kind of points us in the right direction, so please volunteer for that if you can. Laura Holloway also will give an update on the DCL this past weekend. DCL?
Yeah. So we brought several students from both Shortridge High School and Prairie Meridian High School. And then from Speedway High School, the Lieutenant Governor Josan was in attendance. And they were able to attend from Friday night through till Sunday. They had days and nights full of activities. Of course, there's the workshops. We're looking at getting a group of students to attend the International Convention in July in Atlanta. And that's some of our sponsored students as well. So look for more information from that to come. And yeah, if you are on, not Facebook unfortunately, but Instagram, look up the PMHS Key Clubbers and follow along. They post a ton of photos from the weekend, all kinds of fun that they had. Everybody had a great time, so, and it was thanks to you all and the support that you gave in subsidizing the cost of attending an event like that. So thank you.
Thank you, Laura. The Kiwanis International Conference is in Denver this year, the first part of July. If you're interested, please sign up and get your flights and all that and your hotels, because we'd be really interested to have as many people as possible out in Denver in July. Yes, it will be over the holiday weekend. Let's see. Is Eric here? No, he's not here. Okay. Graham is not here. Okay. Well then, I would like to introduce the representatives from Firefly for a grant update on the grant that we gave them not too long ago. Please come up here. Tell us what you did with all that to make things good for kids.
Awesome. My name is Jolie Haven, and I serve as the Senior Director of Development at Firefly. This is Chris Gendron. He is the Director of Older Youth Services. And his program was the recipient of your generosity this year. So I will let him talk a little bit more about his program in just a minute. But I wanted to give you a brief introduction to who we are at Firefly and what we do. Some of you may have been familiar with us previously as Children's Bureau and or Families First. We went through a merger a couple of years ago, and we decided that that warranted a big new name and rebranding, but we are still very much the same organization. Firefly is one of the largest social service organizations within the state of Indiana. So many people don't realize that we actually have about 16 offices total across the state, and we served about 70,000 children last year. So our reach is very wide, and it would be pretty impossible for me to tell you everything that we do in just a couple of seconds. So I just wanted to highlight a couple of things that we do here in central Indiana and Marion County, since this is where you're located. Some of you may recall that the Kiwanis Club supported our children's shelter several years ago. That is located at the corner of 16th and Martin Luther King, so pretty close by. And it is the only emergency children's shelter in central Indiana that can serve any child for any reason of any age at any time. So we serve a lot of kids who have active child welfare cases, who perhaps have just been removed from their homes and put into foster care and are awaiting placement in a foster home, or they may be transitioning from one home to another, or hopefully reuniting with their families, which is always the goal. But we also serve families who are experiencing homelessness or medical emergencies or some other crisis and do not have a safe place for the kids to stay. So we are there with beds for up to 24 kids. Pretty soon we're hoping to undergo a renovation so that we can serve more children and provide more holistic care for them, so we're really excited about that. We also license and support foster homes, and there is a very significant need for foster homes at this time in the state of Indiana. So if you know someone who may be interested in opening their home up to a child, you can visit our website. I did leave some materials out on the table, which you're welcome to take with you, which provide more information not only about that, but about the rest of our work as a whole. And it also has information on how you can get involved with Firefly. We have lots of volunteer opportunities throughout the year. If you're looking for something else to do with your time, even though you're all very busy as Kiwanians, we would welcome you to come support our work. One of my favorite things that we do is Hope for the Holidays. So if you get around to December time and you're looking for a way to give back to kids for the holidays, that is also an excellent way to get involved. But your grant helps support Older Youth Services, which is not a very exciting name for a program that does wonderful things for kids who are preparing to age out of foster care. So there are hundreds of kids each year that will age out of foster care and enter adulthood on their own without the supportive safety net that we hope that most of our teens and young adults would have. So Chris's program helps prepare them for that independence through a variety of means, and I'll let him speak more to that. But your grant helped provide them with emergency assistance for their basic needs. And I have some actual statistics on how we spent the money. You provided aid to 31 youth total. 18 of them received food relief. We all know how expensive groceries are getting, and a lot of these young adults are living on their own, and they're all working or going to school, but it can be very hard to make ends meet. So they received food relief. Some of them received transportation assistance. We helped one youth with rent and another with utilities. Some of them received hygiene items and other items that they needed for their apartments. We do have some youth that are also parents, so you also helped provide car seats to a couple of kiddos. And then we also provided a self-defense course for 50 of those youth. So they had 2 courses in their own personal safety. So I'll let Chris tell you a little bit more about these wonderful youth and what we do with them. But thank you again for your generosity and for your time.
Thank you, Jolie. As Jolie said, my name's Chris. I'm one of the directors with Older Youth Services. It's a horrible name. I apologize, we didn't come up with it. It's actually extension, and I'll try to avoid any technical jargon to keep you guys from falling asleep and inspire you guys to get more money for us. But when it comes to Older Youth Services, it's basically an extension of Chafee Independent Living Services, and that term was used quite widely among the state. But Older Youth Services was the state's response to so many young people being in need, not receiving independent living skills through their education or through their foster parents or through their biological parents, or the fact that they may have been homeless. But in this situation, it allows us to work with current and former foster youth ages 16 to 23. It was just extended to 23 about 3 years ago, and it allowed us to see some wonderful things happen with this population. For those of you who go back a ways, and I was having a conversation with you when you were at Stopover, a lot of these young people were dropped on homeless shelters with garbage bags full of clothing when they turned 18. Age out of the system, homeless shelter. That has been modified greatly in the past 15 years. Now we're working with these young people in their own apartment programs, teaching independent living skills, not only learning how to take care of themselves, but learning how to cook, clean, manage their daily lives, work. As Jolie said, we have parenting youth. And can you imagine how difficult it is to be a parent nowadays as a young person, but being a foster youth and being a parenting youth, trying to get to work, school, and take care of childcare. So the money that Jolie represented covered so many additional things that this young population does not have access to. The extension of 23 is allowing us to watch these young people not only graduate from high school, but graduate from post-secondary education. We just had a young lady complete nursing school. She's been in the program for 6 years, completed high school with us, completed college with us, completed her nursing program, and just got a job at Peyton Manning's hospital, which is just an amazing feat for anybody, much less a foster youth who had spent 18 years in foster care up to that particular point in time. So we have a lot of success stories, a lot of inspiring opportunities to learn from. This population used to be invisible about 30 years ago, and they only became prominence when people were realizing that they weren't getting their needs met. Most of the young people, as Jolie said, leave care, go immediately to homeless, some to the Department of Corrections, have mental health needs that were never addressed. And thanks to the work of DCS, Firefly, formerly Children's Bureau, and anybody that donates us to us, we have changed minds and saved lives with all those donations and those opportunities for our young people. I speak very quickly and I cover a lot of bases. Does anybody have any questions about anything I said? No?
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Oh,
Oh, go ahead.
What is your greatest need right now?
Oh, that's, there's always more than one. It tends to be transportation, which is ironic because we have a pretty good public transportation system, but it does not hit all of our areas. We are not only a provider in Marion County, but we cover several other aspects of the state. We're in Muncie that has their own little bit of it, public transportation. But in Marion County, even with public transportation, some of these young people have to transfer 2 buses to get to the job that's going to pay a living wage. And then when they use their paycheck to utilize Uber, it takes up 30% of their paycheck. So they're already at a loss in that situation. So transportation becomes a significant need. The state and Firefly have tried to challenge that. We've partnered with driver's education courses to get hours so they can get behind the wheel, get their permit. The state waives their permit fee for foster youth, but the downside is that they try to get their permit before they turn 18. There has to be someone willing to sign liability, and that's where we hit a brick wall. So a lot of young people are now insured and driving after the age of 18, but prior to that, it's a very difficult situation.
Yes, sir.
Did you say you used to be the Children's Bureau?
Yes.
Yes, sir. Yeah, well, you just changed our
Why
name.
the name change? I
We went through a merger back in 2021 officially, and it was with Families First, if you're familiar with that organization. Both organizations actually grew out of the same entity about 150 years ago. And so it was a way for us to come back together. There was a little bit of overlap in what we did, but what we really found was the constituency that we were working with has a very wide breadth of needs. And one of the things that Families First did really, really well was mental health services and supportive services for survivors of domestic violence and sexual assault and substance use disorders. So we were already working very closely to make sure that the needs of the clients we were serving, the clients they were serving, were getting access to those services, and it just kind of made sense for us to come back together. But in doing that, these were two organizations that both had very rich, deep histories within the community, and we felt that a new name was important to reflect, our new combined mission and the people that we're going to serve. As Chris knows very well, when we were the Children's Bureau, his youth who are 21, 22 are like, why am I getting services from Children's Bureau? I'm not a child. Sometimes they are, but and we just thought it was a better reflection. So it's really an aspirational name. We did a lot of surveying of our clients about the experiences that they had with us, and many said that we were a light in a time of great darkness, and so that's what Firefly is. We want to be the light for the community. Any other questions?
Can you help with donated clothing, food? Or
Yes, yeah. So we definitely accept any items that are new, whether that's clothing or basic necessities. We go through a lot of hygiene supplies, especially with the shelter on site, and those can be delivered to our headquarters are also located at 16th and Martin Luther King Jr. Street. We do currently accept gently used clothing as well, but we have limited capacity to store, so we tend to accept those items that are in really good condition and seasonally appropriate.
And food as well?
We don't typically accept food, but if you reach out to me, our programs always have the need. We just don't have space to store. So if we know it's coming, then we can immediately get it out to those who need it. Any other questions? This is very, very bright.
I moved so you can tell.
I need to move.
Turn it on.
Hit me on the spotlight.
Shelley and Chris, thank you so
Thank you.
much.
Thank
We
you.
appreciate all that you do. So now to Mel McMahon.
Hi.
Mel McMahon Stone, entrepreneur, podcast host, radio and television contributor, and local business activist. In 2014, she co-founded the Indiana Originals. 6 years later, she created the Indiana Gifts, an online gift shop featuring products made by Indiana companies, now with a brick and mortar location on Main Street in Lebanon, where I live. Mel is also executive producer of the Salvation Army WIBC Radiothon, Wish Influencer for Make-A-Wish, and licensed foster parent. She graduated from IU with a double major in communications and culture and criminal justice with a minor in telecommunications, and from the Keller Graduate School of Management in 2011 with a master's in public administration and a concentration in nonprofit management. She holds many certificates, including the Disney Institute and Lilly School of Philanthropy. So, Mel, take it away.
Don't damage the artwork. There we go.
Hi everyone.
Hi.
How are we doing today?
Great.
Good. So I had everything planned out for what I was going to do today, but I'm completely changing it because the work that Firefly does is super, super important. I just adopted out of foster care, and I have a 5-year-old. He's crazy, right? And needs all the services that they provide, and I'm just hoping to keep him out of jail. Like, that's my goal, right? But so thank you for what you do. Also wanted to give you kudos for everything that you do for the Salvation Army, right? So maybe familiar with a little event we have called the Radiothon, right? We did $460,000 this past December, which was a new record. 30th anniversary is coming up, goal of $500,000, right? So you heard the kettle numbers earlier, But I did want to let you know that Kiwanis Clubs donated over $6,500 to the Radiothon. So that number was not included in the numbers that you heard earlier. So please give yourself a pat on the back for those efforts too. And right, and every little thing adds up, right? So I'm not even going to use this anymore because I'm completely changing everything I'm talking about. So one of the things that I go around and speak about is why local matters, right? So I go through all these different reasons why local businesses are important, right? What they do, how they contribute to the economy. But something that a lot of people don't realize that I want to focus on today in this time that we have is that a big reason to support local businesses is because they donate 250% more money to local nonprofits than big national chains. 250% more. That's huge. That's huge. And that's why clubs like this and the connections that you have in the community are so important, right? So organizations like Firefly can help those youth that are aging out of foster care. When I was in high school, I had a foster brother who was with our family for a limited amount of time, but he turned 18 and he chose to live in an apartment. And he lived in an apartment before he even graduated from high school, right? And so my parents agreed to stay on and mentor him, right? And they helped him, you know, they still paid for prom and, you know, those different things. But it was very odd having someone who's still in high school in their own apartment in Irvington and watching him walk to school, right? Didn't have a car, didn't have a driver's license yet, right? So all of these different experiences have added up to why I'm so passionate about helping local businesses and local organizations today. But your connections and things that you do every day build up to making our community a better place. So I have two businesses and consult. So one business is called IndianaOwned.com. So it's like the Google for local. So every business you find on there is headquartered here in Indiana. The owner lives here at least the majority of the time of the year. And we tell you if the business is an original business, so an independent business, or a franchise. Both have significant impacts in the state and in our economy. I also own a store called Indiana Gifts, which is all products made by Indiana-owned companies. So we have a brick and mortar location on Main Street in Lebanon, and then we have an online store as well, shopindianagifts.com, and we ship all over the country. And we're doing a lot of work with conventions that are coming in town as well. So we were excited to be featured as one of the NBA All-Star Small Business Partners. And so thank you. And so we had a big client out of New York City, TV channels you may have heard of, use our little business to supply gifts for over 125 of their guests that were in town. So for a little business like mine, that's huge, right? It's huge because yes, I can reinvest that money in my business and I can buy more product, but that also means that I can sponsor the Weibo Little League, right? I can sponsor programs that are going on in Lebanon. I can sponsor the musical that's happening in the spring, right? It gives me as a business owner the tools to do more in the community. And then I also consult for nonprofits and small businesses. So my specialty, if you will, is sponsorship development. So that's kind of how the Radiothon came about. So you may have heard of WIBC. Anybody heard of this little station? So I started on that station in 2006, so long time ago. And I actually met the Salvation Army through WIBC. So I started with the Radiothon as finding guests to be on the show. So, we'd have bands come in the studio and play, or just, people come and tell cool stories. And in 2010, I was given the opportunity to join the Salvation Army full-time as their corporate relations coordinator. I was taking a break from radio. And that position was in charge of Radiothon. So, all the worlds collide. All my worlds collide all the time. I think you did this on purpose, but it's okay. So, when I started with the Radiothon in my first one would have been 2011. It was a $140,000 fundraiser. And they were on the air for 3 days straight, right? Morning, night. And it was $146,000 the first one that I was in charge of, right? And then it just kept going up, right? So the next year was $196,000. Then it was $249,000. Then it was $260,000. Then I left. I went back to radio full time to start my own businesses. Stayed on as a consultant to get everybody through Christmas. And Radiothon just got kind of stuck, right? So it just got stuck at $250,000. So I was honored when Major Bob Webster at the time asked if I would come back and help get Radiothon going. And so they're like, we just want you to do $250,000. Just do $250,000. Let's just keep it on the air, right? Because WIBC is like, we're not doing anything. Let's pull the plug. What's the point? And Salvation Army is like, we have to have this money to serve people. What are we going to do instead? So fortunately, me coming back really helped propel the Radiothon to keep going. So goal was $250,000. We did $315,000. Next year we did $375,000. Okay, and so it just keeps going up. And last year we did $460,000, and like I mentioned before, $500,000 is going to be the goal for this December. The difference every year is the generosity of local business owners, local community members. Right? We're not getting big national dollars from some office, you know, in Washington, D.C. or out in California or in Texas. The number keeps going up because of the generosity of people who live here or who are from here, right? And this all contributes to why local matters, right? If you're able to give more, give more. If you know someone else who can give, you ask them to join you, right? Because the truth is the WIBC listening audience hasn't really changed that much. You know, it's still about the same number of people, right? What's changing is those corporate sponsors, the foundations, and those donors that are coming in ahead of time saying, hey, I want to help with this event. I want to sponsor this hour. I want to be a mystery match donor. I want to match this. Or Kiwanis being like, hey, we want to in on Radiothon and we want to donate this much money. That's how these numbers keep going up, right? It's the local people that are making a difference. And so in this presentation I would normally do, you know, I'd go through the economic impact of local business owners. I'd go through the environmental impact, all of these things. But I think for today, it's just really, really important to just keep encouraging you to do what you're doing as Kiwanians and as citizens and as Hoosiers, because every little thing that we do not only makes a difference for ourselves and the people in our home, but it makes a difference for your neighbor, which makes a difference for the community, which makes a difference for the city, which makes a difference for the county, for the town. It just keeps growing, right? It's that ripple effect. And we've all seen people that have been down and out. Maybe some of us have been there ourselves, right? And when you help these organizations, whether you are directly getting that service or not, you're still paying it forward somehow, right? Salvation Army is the easiest example. Obviously, I have a lot of experience with it. But you know, one of the things that we talk about is you never know when the Salvation Army is going to need your help, right? Or when you are going to need their help, okay? Salvation Army always needs your help. That's an easy answer. But you might be like, well, I'm not homeless. You know, I don't have an addiction issue, right? Like my kids have plenty at Christmas. Okay, well, what happens if we get a tornado and your house is gone the next day? Who's going to be one of the first ones to help you? It's going to be the Salvation Army, right? Okay. I think of everything that Firefly talked about, right? So I've had 3, 4, 5, 6 kiddos in my home who were foster children. 1, 2, 3, 4 of them have been adopted by now. 2 of them are hopefully getting adopted. The reality is for none of those kids, reunification wasn't an option, right? If you can't find families to take on these kids, they're going to go through those services that you heard about today, right? The older youth services. Those services are only possible because of private donations, right? The government can do what the government does. We can love it, we can not like it, we can support it, whatever, it doesn't matter. What matters is supporting these local organizations that are experts in what they do, right? And encouraging those gifts. And Kettle is the perfect example. You put in a penny, you think it doesn't make a difference, right? But every time you put a penny in that kettle, you're making change. Because you're making a change. Because you put a penny in, 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 you put $100 in, you put a penny in, dime, nickel, you know, it all adds up, right? And it's the same thing with any local business owner, any local nonprofit. And so what I do is I just encourage people to look for local, right? Go out of your way to support those local business owners, and hopefully my business, IndianaOwned.com, can help make that easier for you. So we do have a badge. It's down here in the corner. Whenever you see that logo, you know that you're supporting local, right? And so what I want to do today is really just encourage you to think about how you're spending your money, and where that money is going, and making sure that it's going to something that you think is going to make a difference. So I know this is not anything I told you I was going to talk about, but I don't think you're surprised. Kelly, are you surprised? Okay. So does anybody have any questions about local or impact or anything Radiothon related or Salvation Army related? I'm happy to answer. Yeah, in the back.
Mel, how do you qualify the Indiana-owned business?
Yeah. So we look at the ownership. Yeah, there is a slide there. There you go, but go back one. There you go. Okay, so what we look at is the ownership of the business, right? Is it Indiana owned and operated? Does that resident live here? At least the majority of the time. We have some snowbirds, they spend some time in Florida and stuff. That's cool. I want them to invite me. Haven't gotten to that point yet. But, so we look at where the ownership is and where that ownership is headquartered. We've had some businesses who they have a location here and they've tried to join, but then when I vet them, their headquarters is in Ohio. And it's not even a franchise model, right? They just opened a store here. That's not going to count as Indiana owned for me. The roots in Indiana is really important because local business owners put twice as much money into the local economy as national chains, right? And then franchises fall somewhere in between that. So if you spend $100 with a local business, $68 of that is going to stay here, which is a really big deal, right? Because that's our resources, right? That's our infrastructure, that's our education. Think of everything that your tax money goes to, right? Pumping payroll in so people can make more purchases. And then what we distinguish as original and franchises, it used to be just originals. The actual name of the company was Indiana Originals for a long time. But what happened during the pandemic is we ran into a lot of franchise owners who were making a huge impact in their community. Lots of donations, lots of, helping in lots of ways, but their national brand was getting all of the recognition. And that didn't really sit well with us because we had a lot of franchise owners who had asked to be in Indiana Originals because they live here, right? They're doing the same thing as the Originals, they just have a different business model. And so in 2019, no, not 2019, 2021, we rebranded to Indiana owned and let franchises in, but we're clear as to whether it's an original or a franchise. And so that's really what we look at is that headquarters address and where the owner is investing their time and money.
If they're an Indiana original company, and they have stores in other states, does that qualify?
Yep, that's fine. We just want to encourage them to keep the headquarters here and provide a supportive environment so they can do that.
So how can Kiwanis, downtown Indy, help ourselves and help you at the same time?
Oh, that's a great question.
We are local too.
Yes.
And we use our name theoretically to raise money for the Lincoln Fellows that helps the handicapped kids that get the scholarships to college.
Yeah.
At the same time, we're helping you bring money in for that. On the radio.
Yeah.
Is that possible?
Right. Well, I think part of the
And
big,
members.
yeah, I think one of the big things that a local club like this can do is really work on spreading the word about what you're doing and keeping local a part of the story. I push this with the Salvation Army a lot, right? It is an international organization, right? Kiwanis is also an international organization, and you just happen to be headquartered here, which I think is really cool. But how do you tell that story about what you're doing locally versus what people know about Kiwanis internationally, right? And then how do you even speak to a younger generation to help them know what the purpose of Kiwanis is and how it's still important, right? And how they can make an impact, right? That's where your Key Club comes in. But really, the part that helps me, obviously, is going to the website, IndianaOwned.com, frequenting those businesses, telling them that you heard about them through Indiana Owned, and then just asking how you can get involved, right? Kelly's got a direct line to me. If you're looking for, hey, we want to do a special project, or somebody had this idea, who can we do with locally? You can just send me a text, give me a phone call. I'd be happy to help you out. One of the things that I do, I'm a connector. Right, like that's what I do. I'm kind of a people person. Not sure if you gathered that or not, but I also consider myself an echo point. So when I find something that I love, I tell the world, right? I share it, and I hope to get people on board with me to love it too. If I don't like something about a business, I'm going to tell the owner. I'm not going to post it on Facebook or anything like that. But it's all about spreading the word, right? And it's telling people, letting people know that you're a Kiwanian. What does that mean? How do you help people locally? A lot of it is just storytelling. A lot of it's storytelling.
It might be a partnership we can work theoretically on that basis because we do help with these scholarships for these kids.
Yeah.
Which is really not greatly known. But we do
Yeah.
this and other projects for Riley and for Salvation
Mhm.
So we might be a conduit for you and us.
Mhm.
If we talk about this.
Yeah, I would love to talk more about it.
Mary, Uncle Mary.
Yeah, Mary knows how to go hold me too. You can find me. Yeah. Was there another comment or question over here? Yeah.
How do, let's say, independent or local independent, how do they find out about you, or how they might be really good potential members or
Yeah.
organization? And then also, do you, one of the things that the city does is, if you're a women-owned business or an RA-owned business or a veteran-owned business, you go through this registration
Mhm.
process and you be a preferred vendor.
Mhm.
So do you encourage your members to, if they qualify to?
Yeah, it depends on how it's going to be used. It is a lot of effort. So we, as Indiana owned, have been certified women-owned business, DBE, ACDBE, like, you know, there's all kinds of letters. A lot of it's airport stuff, right? Concessions, disadvantaged business, they're weird names. But it is a lot of effort to get those designations. People will take money to do it for you. They take a lot of money to do that for you. But the question really is how are you going to be utilized, right? Why are you getting that designation? Is it just to say it, or is it because there's an actual program that you're gonna go into? With those designations, we see a lot of them in more of the construction industry, get a lot of advantages out of those. Sometimes in the PR world too, depending on who the company is, a lot of companies from out of town who are bidding on different projects, they're required to have a certain minority partnership, and so they will look through those. What's interesting though is if you want to find a list of like who's a WBE business or who's a DBE business, it's literally an Excel spreadsheet that you download from the government website. Like, it's not really fancy or anything. And you're not even sure if those businesses are still in business. So what we encourage people to do on IndianaOwned.com is, and we're actually changing our business model a little bit. So our new website's going to be up either tomorrow or the next day, which I'm really excited about. But we encourage our members to make sure to share that they have those designations, so that way when people are on our website and they're looking those up, they're going to show up in the search results, right? So those are keywords in their listing that'll show up. And then what was the first part of your question? How do people find out about us?
Right, or
Yeah.
how do you reach out to
Yeah. So what's interesting is we are going to be 10 in May. So we've been around for a long time. We have hundreds of members, and I don't want to be the best kept secret anymore. But we have done radio for a long time. We do lots of TV. We do lots of publications that we team up with IBJ, Inside Indiana Business. We've had a really big focus on business owners. And so what you're going to see more now is the focus on the consumer aspect of it. So we do a lot of B2B. It comes very naturally, local business owners wanting to work with other local business owners. But really the push that's coming, and that you're going to see the logo everywhere, is more on that consumer side. So that's going to be a big piece of it too. So. Anything else? Yes.
You have a mouthful of ice.
Well, you know what? He caught me with my mouth full earlier when he was asking my name, so
Where
it's
is
fine.
your brick and mortar building?
101 East Main Street. Yep, doesn't get much more local than that address. So we are just on the southeast corner of the Courthouse Square in Lebanon.
Open when?
We are open Tuesday through Saturday. We have various hours. So during the week it's 10 to 2, but today we're open like 10 to 5, Saturday 10 to 2. But starting in April, we're going to be open Tuesday through Saturday, 10 to 6, and then Sundays, noon to 4 when there's special events. 'Cause Lebanon is growing like crazy right now. And so the nice thing is that Indiana Gifts has become a destination, right? So we get a lot of messages, even though we have the hours posted. Hey, are you really open today? You know, we're driving up from this place, or we're going to be at the field house, or, you know, something like that. And so it's funny, I had a conversation this morning with 2 other local business owners, because I've always had this vision of what I want Indiana Gifts to be. However, it's shifting a little bit, because what's happening is people are coming to downtown Lebanon to come to my store, which means they're going to see other stores and patronize other businesses around me at the same time. So maybe that big building I want on the interstate isn't necessarily going to meet my mission as much as I thought it was, right? So we're actually looking at an expansion right now, but you need money for that. And there's, you know, money, more money. It'll come, right? So I decided a long time ago, if you put mission over money, the money will always be there. And so we're looking at an expansion right now, which is exciting. But you know, there's a lot of factors that go into it, and you know, I do have an 8-year-old and a 5-year-old. I live a block and a half away from my store now, which is exciting. But you know, one of the things too that we need to factor in with local business owners is, you know, what's going on in their personal life too, right? There's a lot of things that go on behind the scenes. You know, for example, even just in my business today. So Sarah's supposed to be at the store. She's at the store on Thursdays. Her mom had complications from surgery, so she can't be at the store today. So my friend Missy is covering the store while I'm here. I'm going to leave here and I'm going to run back there. And then my ex-husband's going to bring my kids tonight at 5, meet them at the art center in Thorntown so we can go to the art show. And then Bennett's going to go to Cub Scouts. And then at some point we'll be home and I'll, you know, do bedtime, right? And so there's so many different factors in there about, you know, what goes on in different things. So
12 years, that'll all be over.
huh?
12 years, that'll all be over. It'll be your life, lead like your life.
Right. So I'm 40 and my dad is still waiting for that to be over. So no, not so much. But it's exciting. It's a good one. Thank you very much. Thank you.
What's your podcast called?
It's called Local Matters. Clever name. But what I do is I interview local entrepreneurs and community members who are making a difference in the community. So if it's one of our Indiana-owned members, we talk about what they do now, what they're experts in, and then we go back to the beginning. What did you want to be when you grew up? What did you do along the way that got you to where you are now? And then on the back end of the podcast, it's all business advice. So what's something you do differently now, you know, if you knew better? What's, you know, something people should know about your industry? What is one thing that you really think that people should focus on, right? So it's really informative. And then if it's a community member, you know, it's really about the event, the nonprofit, the impact in the community, that kind of thing. So we have 99 episodes out.
The name of the podcast again?
Local Matters with Mel McMahon. Yep. It's anywhere you find your podcast, so. Okay, anything? Well, thank you so much for your time today. Kelly, thanks for letting me wing it. I appreciate you putting that up there for me, but it's always good to see you. If you have any questions about Radiothon, happy to help. Local, happy to help. So thank you very much.
Thank you. We appreciate what you do and that you had time to come see us today. We're going to give a donation in your honor to 100 Cameras for 100 Kids. It's a mission that provides 100 deserving kids a camera each year. So it fosters their creativity, their self-expression, and their development of important life skills.
Thank you so much.
Through the lens of the camera, they can tell their stories, document their journeys, and explore the world around them in an entirely new way. So, there you go.
Thank you very much.
All right, dad joke. Usually these end up being puns.
Make it funny.
I'm afraid for the calendar, its days are numbered. Okay, with that, the meeting's adjourned.